Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me to discuss the paradigm shift in the wealth management business as a result of COVID-19 is Priya Bajoria. She's a Senior Vice President of Financial Services at Publicis Sapient. It's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you for having me here today.
And Priya, how are wealth managers changing their approach to adapt to our new normal?
So I think there are two aspects that we have to look at. One is that over the last 6 months or so, investor behavior has changed. They have started to adopt digital technologies much more openly than they ever have been in the past. And the second is the risk profiles have changed. Today, an investor is very concerned about their personal health, their job security, their financial health. So they are looking for more active handholding from their advisors. So from a wealth management firm standpoint, I think that's what they need to adapt to, in addition to the fact that their entire workforce has been remote and they have to work through compliance, risk, cybersecurity, and other challenges to provide tools and technologies to their advisors to remain connected with their clients. And I think there are different firms who have made progress on both of these fronts.
What are the changes in priorities for wealth managers?
So if you look at the first thing, obviously, is client retention. As I mentioned, it is very important to continue to retain trust of your clients, especially since the liquidity and the risk, the uncertainty, all of that is not going to change anytime soon. The second piece is in terms of how do you stay connected while you are virtual? And so there are times when the advisor can connect with the client on Zoom, but they are not able to share their desktop, or they are not able to share information. So the information exchange is still happening the old-fashioned way, whether through email or through physical documents. So that integration, I think, is required to keep your clients engaged. The second piece is around new client acquisitions. So if you look at new client acquisitions, there were many ways that people were walking into branches, or you had access to them through conferences, etc. So there has to be a much more personalized, data-driven way that you're targeting a set of investors and that you're able to offer them a proposition that makes sense for them, as opposed to going after a whole host of people, because you also have to manage your outreach costs accordingly in the current times. And then the third and the more important piece is the underlying technology, because some of the traditional firms are still dealing with the legacy of antiquated technology. They are not upgraded to the cloud yet. So there is a lot of backlog that they need to take care of to keep pace with some of the more digitally native firms that are able to make more progress because they have access to the latest technologies. And innovation in these times is required for sustaining. Earlier, it was innovation only for growth. And I think that's the paradigm shift that we are seeing in wealth management firms today.
Why do wealth managers need to approach clients more holistically?
If you look at the traditional data sources that have been used by wealth managers to understand their customers, it's historical data, it's demographic data, it is assets, liabilities, what have your risk profile been, are you looking at an aggressive or a moderate risk profile? I think that needs to be expanded in terms of including a lot more unstructured data, with permission of your clients, of course, to be able to give them a holistic advice. And some examples of those unstructured data elements are understanding their overall financial health, which is not limited to your insurance, your healthcare expenses, your tax planning information, your estate planning, because today, the investor may choose not to share all of that information with the advisor, and then the advisor is just giving them a picture of, an assessment just based on the information they know. And I think that has to change. And with access to technologies, a lot of that data can be processed, and you can come up with some scenarios to discuss with your clients more holistically.
All right, and Priya, to wrap up here, what's cognitive wealth management?
So cognitive wealth management in my mind is the nirvana, which is you have access to all of the digital technologies, yet you have the human element involved in there. And so advice is not limited to the net worth that the investor has. Advice is accessible to anybody because you have the underlying technology engine that is there to support you. And if you need more handholding, you have the advisor there. There's also the element of customer service, which has to be more proactive in that micro moment, as opposed to waiting for me to call somebody and say, I need help with that. You know, do we have the tools and the technologies, or will we have them going forward, that it can be more in that moment? And then the risk, the return calculations can also be more dynamic, as opposed to waiting for end of day and getting, again, a historical view versus what is now and what is relevant to me today.
All right, Priya, thanks so much for joining us on Trade Talks.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. And thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.